Hey guys, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to talk about steering wheel upgrades for the Porsche 911 997. Once again, here I am talking to you about making changes to my Porsche 911 997. Am I ever going to be happy with this car? I don't know. This is the second year or third year, going into the third year of owning a 911. And I've come to find that whenever I put the car away for the winter, my mind just starts working overtime with all the things that I think I want to do to the car. And I find myself, like I did last night or this morning, laying awake, unable to fall asleep, Googling and researching different topics associated with the car. And last night, it was all about steering wheels. And this came about because someone who comments on a lot of my videos on YouTube was asking me, what am I thinking about doing next, and had I considered looking at steering wheels? And honestly, I hadn't. Not until about 12 hours ago. And now, having spent hours and hours Googling and YouTubing and all of that stuff, I think I know enough now to be dangerous. And I think I am interested potentially in doing something with my steering wheel. So let's take a look at what I found. And I would be really interested, as ever, in what you guys think. So I've got my laptop here in front of me. And of course, for those of you who actually know me, you'll know that I love a good coffee. And here I am with a Minnesota mug, enjoying some quiet time while the wife and the kids are out. So what else should I be doing apart from Googling and talking with you guys about Porsches? All right, so let's start off with and let's try and keep it simple, because I'm a simple guy and I could easily get confused, and I think I could also sit here gibbering and jabbering at you for about an hour, and that's not going to be fun for anyone. So let's just start with the Porsche steering wheels. There are loads of custom options out there, and I'll show you one website that a friend of mine here in the Twin Cities pointed me to, where I think he got his custom steering wheel from, and it's definitely a lot cheaper than the first few different styles I'm going to go through. So first off, with the first generation 997, and unfortunately for you first gen 997 drivers out there like me, if you want a new steering wheel and you go outside of the 997 generation, and the point I'm alluding to is the 991 second gen steering wheels, which I think look incredible, you are going to need some extra components to do the translation between the new buttons and the older version of the PCM. If you have a second gen 997, all you really need to worry about, from what I understand, is the steering wheel and one additional component, not two. But I'll come to that later. So let's start off with the 997 and let's see what was available. Generally, two types of steering wheels. You either had a steering wheel that had let's look at manual as well. You either had a steering wheel that had a triangular airbag like mine, and presumably that was the cheapest option. Mine's the base, and it didn't come with an awful lot of features. And then there were the round steering wheels, which you can see here. There's a GT3 RS. There is another one here somewhere. Standard sports steering wheel down here for just over $1,000, which has the round airbag. And that's starting to look a little more like the steering wheels of today, whether you're driving a 911 or a Macan or a Cayman or a Cayenne or whatever. So I do think I want to get away from the triangular airbag. I think it's very 997. It's different to what was in the 996, so it is kind of unique. But if I'm going to move away, let's think about round airbags. So that was it for the original 997. We then start to look at the second gen 997, and there were a couple of different options introduced here. PDK, of course, was introduced with the second gen 997. The emergence of the paddle shifters. And there's another important point to mention, actually. So you have a basic steering wheel. You can get a steering wheel with the multifunction controls. You can get a steering wheel with, if you have the automatic transmission, either the button selectors, or now in the second gen 997, the paddle shifters to change gear. And you can also have a heating option for a heated steering wheel. So lots of different variants to consider, and each one of those potentially has an implication on how much you're going to spend if you're going to replace it, depending on whether or not you need new parts. But let's take a look at the new sportier steering wheels. If you find a steering wheel that has paddle shifters on but you have a manual transmission, it doesn't matter actually, because it's really easy to take the paddle shifters off and you can use that steering wheel like you would, just a regular manual transmission. But in this generation of 997, this is where the newer steering wheels came into play. So you see the metal alloy-looking spokes on the left and right of the airbag and at the bottom. And of course the paddle shifters. I don't need to worry about the paddle shifters, but a nice sort of standard steering wheel like that, I could get one Alcantara, or I could get one in leather, and it would look, like I want it to look. Here though, my coffee machine is turning off, so remind me to have another sip of coffee. And if you can see, I'm keeping it real here. Minnesota, oofta. Good job, Minnesotans. All right, steering wheel. So if I wanted to go for the sand beige, I'd have to add $800. But it would fit in my car. It's technically a 997 steering wheel, even though it is the second gen. I think I can live with that. It has the newer, sportier look. I wouldn't worry about multifunction because my PCM unit was taken out when I put my Apple CarPlay system in there, which for another video, I'm actually considering putting back, going back to base. But anyway, for now, I could have $1,000 for a black, sporty looking steering wheel, which looks more modern, add the $800 to have it sand beige. So I'm in for, about $1,800 plus tax, plus shipping. So let's just call it $2,000. If I wanted multifunction though, I would have to look at a couple of other different components. Now, before we look at those other components, let's take a quick look at the 991. And let's look at the second gen 991 and the steering wheels here. This is where the wheels got another little upgrade. Again, let's just take a look at the manual transmission, which is what I have. Hello. Right, so here's where the 991 second gen steering wheels got a bit of an upgrade. You'll see here that the spokes look a little different, a little more stylized. We have the multifunction buttons that also have been changed slightly, and then the paddle shifters sit behind. With the Sports Chrono, there was also the introduction of this additional little dial on the bottom right here that allowed you to, I think, also control the electronic display in the dashboard by the dials, but it also gave you the ability to flip between a couple of different driving modes. I don't need to worry about that, even though I have Sports Chrono. It's not compatible with the 997 from what I understand. So thinking about putting a 991 generation steering wheel into the 997, is it possible? Well, according to some folks that have done it, it is. Suncoast don't recommend it, and they say that Porsche don't recommend it. But from what I've seen online, it is possible. It's just a question of making sure you put the thing back together properly and that you have the right electronics. So if you want to use multifunction, for example, you have the right protocol translator that goes from the new buttons to the PCM. So let's take a look at that. So first component, and actually let me give a shout out to a guy called Jim Wong. At about, I don't know, 1 or 2 o'clock this morning as I was Googling away, I came across his videos. He's just recently put a Macan steering wheel, I think it's a 2016 Macan that he found on eBay. He's put that into his, what I believe is a second gen 997 turbo, I think. No, maybe first gen. Anyway, but he's put this Macan steering wheel into the 997 and it works. Now, it looks a little complicated. I maybe need a few coffees and a few stiff drinks to attempt it, but I think I probably could do it. But his video is really informative. He had to buy this additional component from GPS, which you can see here on the video screen, which looks a little bit like a wiring harness. Maybe it is indeed a wiring harness. Again, auto amateur, don't know it all off the top of my head. But essentially this fits behind the airbag and connects to the existing OEM wiring to do that translation. Now, unfortunately for the first gen 997 drivers, there is an additional OEM Porsche component that you need to get. So this one from GPS Performance Services runs at about $350. Let's take a look. Yeah, $350. And you can choose whether or not you need the heating. You can choose whether or not you've got multifunction or whether you have the sport design or not. Excuse me. And then, you select the version of the car. Boom. There are installation guides, really, really super cool and useful. So that looks pretty straightforward. But then you also need, where are we here? For $300 and change, this new control module, which was put into the second gen 997, but isn't in, or at least an older version of this without the protocols required, is in the first gen. So you would need to buy this and install it, which means not only are you taking out the airbag and the steering wheel, you're also opening up the steering column and taking out the component where the stalks sit, left and right, and cruise control and so on. And you need to take that apart, turn it upside down, and then the component swap out with a few screws. It's relatively plug and play. But it just adds another layer of complication, maybe ups the skill level required, and then just adds a bit of risk and cost into your plan as well. So I'm not sure if I went for the most up-to-date steering wheel, whether or not I'd bother getting the multifunction. If I did get the PCM back in there at a later date, I could always just take it apart and buy the component from GPS, as well as the control module from Porsche. So maybe for now I just think about a straight steering wheel replacement. But it raises a whole bunch of questions. Do I get a black steering wheel? Do I go for a sand beige steering wheel? Do I go Porsche OEM? Do I go for the sporty version with the newer looking chrome spokes that was in the 997? Or do I go all out and get one that was designed for the 991, which looks cooler, a little sleeker? Or do I go custom? So let's take a look at DCT Motorsports. My friend Scott posted this to me today. And for 5 weeks of your time, while you wait and do a core swap out, and just south of $1,000, plus shipping, I guess, you can get a completely custom OEM looking steering wheel. So look at this. For $950, I could reuse my triangular airbag and get a slightly smaller, sportier steering wheel with the extra sort of like grips at the top at 10 and 2, and get it in sand beige for, I don't think, any additional cost. That would be the cheapest version, I think. So, lowest end option, about $1,000, a sportier looking sand beige steering wheel. And I'm really just paying for a smaller wheel with the extra grips on top, reusing my hardware and my airbag. It sounds like the easiest option. I'm not sure it's going to be the coolest looking option. I could go with the 997.2 steering wheel that's sporty. If I go black, it's about $1,000. If I want sand beige, I've got to add $800 onto that. So I'm looking at $1,800 plus tax and shipping. So what, $2,000 maybe in change. If I go for the 991 steering wheel, there are actually some variants that are cheaper than the 997, maybe because there's greater availability, I'm not sure. But if you go to the YouTube, not the YouTube, what's it called? eBay, You can find a whole bunch of options out there, secondhand, most of them without airbags, but here, take a look. Here's an example, a brand new 911 steering wheel. It's the latest, well, it's almost the latest gen. It doesn't have the little screws for the GTS version. That could work. It's about the same price actually as what's on Suncoast. But there are more options out there for, see if I can find any now, just quickly, under pressure. Kinda, there's one, 1700, no. Oh, here we go, Latvia. Oh, the yellow stripe on top, which, you know, kind of ties in with the theme of my car. It's carbon. I'm not sure I want a carbon steering wheel, but it is the brand new version, GTS kind of style, with the little screws, with the cooler technical looking spokes and the multifunction. So let's say that sets me back $700 US. I'd then also get the $350 for the GPS component, and then another $350 for the power module. I'm still looking at about $2,000. So I think cheapest I could do this for is about $1,000. Most expensive with an OEM Porsche steering wheel and the afterpart components, I'm probably looking just south of $3,000. And then there are probably a couple of options in between. It sounds like a very expensive upgrade. I think it's going to be a fun challenge. What do you guys think though? Let me know. I'd be really interested. What color should I go for? What style should I go for? Or should I just forget about it and save my money? Kind of leaning towards that, but I'd be really interested to know. All right, hope you're continuing to enjoy the holiday period. I'm going to get back to my coffee and enjoy another hour or so before the wife and kids come home. And I'll see you in the next video once I get my wheels back from Adrenaline Customs. All right, take care. Bye.